Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Wednesday, September 19th, 2018, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, it's an up day everywhere, except NASDAQ was down a little bit. Oil's up, gold's up, Bitcoin's up, markets are up. It's an up day. Dow jumps more than 150 points as Goldman and JP Morgan lead bank shares higher. Stocks rose on Wednesday. Bank shares got a lift from higher interest rates. Oh, wonderful. Good for us when we put the money in the bank to try and get back something, because this has been nothing but a war on savers by keeping the interest rates so low. But there are implications to this, and we'll talk about those in a moment. Sentiment on Wall Street was also boosted as investors bet that a trade war between the United States and China will not be as bad as previously feared. 16 minutes ago. Every day they're coming out with a new story about the trade wars. Oh, watch out for him. Oh, don't fear him. Watch out for him. Don't fear him. This trade war stuff is a lot of baloney. The numbers are a joke. They don't add up to much at all. But they don't see the big picture, so they only could see what's in front of them. And what's in front of them is the same thing that's in front of the business media and mainstream news all the time. Nothing but a load of...
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
Yeah, it's horse shit. You're looking at the S&P. What is this? Up more than 8.5% this year. And again, we call the Trump rally. We said when it peaked, we think it's near its peak, and there's more to come for other reasons. Because one of them is oil prices rise with global tensions. And you know we've been talking about that a long time. And there are other issues as well that's going to bring the markets down. And the big one is right in front of you. It's in your trend alert, economic 9/11, guns, gold, and a getaway plan. You better get ready. Something big's going on. Oh, I mentioned interest rates. What's the global debt? Only about $250 trillion bucks. And what's happening to those emerging markets? Well, all their currencies are going down because the dollar's going up as interest rates go up. And all the money they have to pay back with more of their declining currencies. Oh, and all those mergers and acquisitions and those leveraged buyouts and all the money borrowed. Oh, and the consumers. What's going to happen when interest rates go up? The answer and other factors that are going to cause the next economic 9/11 are in your trend alert. And that's not all. Tomorrow, your TrendsJournal. Woof! What another one this one is. Your monthly TrendsJournal used to be a quarterly, packed with information, history before it happens. Run up and down the list and check out this cover. That's just a hint. All right, moving forward here. I mentioned about oil prices. Oil futures rose to a more than 2-month high on Wednesday, bolstered by the 5th weekly crude inventory drawdown. Okay, remember, oil rises with global tensions. You see what's going on in the Middle East. Also, we know that Trump has put these sanctions on Iran, and they're going into effect heavy duty in November. Oil prices are now around $80 a barrel, Brent crude. If they go up to 100, and there are reasons why we see that happening, poof, these markets go down. And remember, the last 4 recessions started off with rising oil prices. Oil prices peaked. Poof, the economy goes down. Again, half of the United States average consumers' tax cuts that came from the Trump administration, they've already been eaten up by rising oil prices just going into their gas tank. And gold prices went up a little bit. Again, covering that short selling over there. We think gold is at the bottom. We've said this before. Bottom another $20, $30, but from this side, we believe it's going to go up. We do not give financial advice. We are trend forecasters. I mentioned about your trend alert, economic 9/11. Here's a little story. Economic optimism hits lowest for nearly 7 years in BOAML survey. Investor optimism about the global economic outlook has hit its lowest level for nearly 7 years, according to a widely watched survey. Some 24% of investors expect global growth to decelerate in the next 12 months. The Bank of America Merrill Lynch Fund Manager Survey found investors are holding on to more cash, telling us they're bearish about growth. Read your trend alert. History before it happens. And what else do we have here? White House hawks. Ooh, ratchet up China trade ire. How dare those hawks? New tariffs on Beijing leave little room for any settlement, but the idea that they will lead to a quick capitulation is widely disputed. Hey, if it's widely disputed, then it must be a fact. And you know what that is.
Warning, warning, bullshit alert.
Yeah, here's the headline in the Financial Times. China hits back at Trump's tariffs by targeting $60 billion in U.S. goods. $60 billion. They do $500 billion selling to us. We sell them about $150 billion. You know how much this is going to hurt China? United States trade tariffs? 0.7% of China's GDP growth. That's according to the Chinese. There's going to be a deal. Let's make a deal. China's confronted with a host of difficulties and challenges in economic development. China's second in command just said yesterday, quote, persistent depreciation of the yuan will only do more harm than good to our country. China will never go down the path of stimulating exports by devaluing its currency because that will not generate much profit and benefit to China. He's right. They're not devaluing purposely. Their country is in problems financially and economically and in debt-wise. It's all outlined in your Trends Journal. They have a debt-to-GDP ratio of 300%. They don't want to lower the value of their yuan. I mentioned oil prices going up. What's oil priced at? Dollars, petrodollars. If your currency is going down, you're the biggest importer of energy, you got to even pay more for it. So that's what we're doing with that. They're going to make a deal. And remember, I read this headline about China hits back at Trump tariffs by targeting $60 billion worth of goods, and the other one about hawks. Pakistan raises duties to avert crisis. Pakistan will raise import duties on 5,000 different items. Wait a minute. That's called protectionism. Yeah, remember I read to you yesterday, India's doing it, Indonesia's doing it. One country after another's doing it, putting tariffs on imports. But when the United States does it, oh, it's terrible, because the media is filled with nothing more than prostitutes. Market for electric SUVs heats up. Well, we don't think it's going to heat up that much. Again, it's in your Trends Journal, top trends for 2018. Canadian marijuana producer. Shares end the day up 38%. company Tilray, they're up as much as 90%, $28 billion market cap before it corrected. Ballooning pot stocks are now bigger than Chipotle and Macy's. Old news to TrendsJournal subscribers. Reefer, money, madness. Take a look at it right here in your TrendsJournal and wait till you see the new one. Good news. Kim eyes progress on nuclear talks with U.S. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un said he expected progress in denuclearization. This is great news, and this should be promoted more and more and more. Peace. Peace with North Korea, peace with Russia, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. I didn't make that up. I think somebody else said it, but they never talk about it anymore during Christmas time or Easter. I think the guy was called the Prince of Peace, but that's old news. And what else do we have here? Taliban kills at least 27 security forces in attacks across Afghanistan. Again, we're forecasting there's also going to be peace talks with Afghanistan coming up before the midterm elections. But where there's no peace is what's going on in Syria, the Middle East, Yemen, Israel, United States, and Saudi Arabia going against Iran, Russia, and Syria. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed yesterday, that Israel would keep acting against its arch foe Iran in Syria after a Russian aircraft was accidentally down there by Syria during an Israeli missile strike. Israel is determined to stop Iranian military entrenchment in Syria, Netanyahu said. What right do you have? Same right that America has. And Turkey's over there too. Any country could go in and they want to and do anything that they want to. International law doesn't count. And if you don't believe me, here we go. Justifying land grab. Israel says it's, quote, allowed to ignore international law anywhere it wants. The Israeli government has recently claimed that it could, quote, legislate anywhere in the world that it is entitled to violate the sovereignty of foreign nations and that, quote, it is allowed to ignore the directive of international law in any field it desires. Okay? This is in Mondelez.net. You could look it up yourself. International law doesn't count. Not for them, not for the United States, and not for any other country that wants to attack a sovereign nation that did nothing to them. And speaking about doing something to them, Dutch Catholic Church accused of covering up child abuse. West Virginia bishop resigns amid abuse claims. Brooklyn Diocese reaches multi-million-dollar settlement in sex abuse case. 4 men who said they were abused as children will receive a total of $27.5 million as part of a settlement with the Diocese of Brooklyn. Yeah, you think about this. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. The Catholic Church, they don't allow same-sex marriages. I wonder why. Because that's what they seem to be into. And I also figured out, in the Catholic Church, they say, you can't have sex until you get married. And by reading all this information and how disgusting all this is and all the abuse that went on, I realized why they did it. The priest didn't want any competition. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.